Khwarezm, Mawarun Nar, and Khorasan. Places where the heart of Central Asia once beat and where the most fertile lands of the world are located. The geography where many events that shaped history were experienced. This region, which contains the heritage of ancient cultures and civilizations, would raise many scientists and thinkers who would leave their mark on the next periods and enlighten the horizons of all humanity and present them to the community. Biruni, a civilization scholar. Ebu al-Hasan al-Valveleji, a famous Islamic law scholar, visits Ebu Rayhan al-Biruni, who is almost dying, barely breathing on his deathbed. He salutes, presents his reverence, and asks for his health condition. Biruni thanks him and states that he is now living the last days of his life and that he had nothing to do but submit to the orders of Allah Almighty. But all of a sudden, he surprises this old friend and says,
Bir zamanlar menga meros doirasida aytilgan qanday hisob qilinishi bilan aloqador tenglamadan so'zlagan edik. U qanday tenglama edi?
O'zing bir ahvolda yotibsan, u so'ragan narsangni qarayu.
Seninchi bu dunyodan mana shu savolning bilib ketganim xayrlimi yoki bilmasdan rihlat qilganim?
Ebu al-Hasan al-Valveleji, who is startled once again in response to this answer, which is a summary of a life spent in search for knowledge, retells the issue. Biruni listens to him carefully. Then he talks about his works that he wants to write and says, if God permits, I would like to leave this world after completing them. After a short time, Ebu al-Hasan al-Valveleji wants to leave and says goodbye to Biruni. Soon after he leaves, he hears a clamor. He looks back and understands that Ebu Rayhan al-Biruni passed away.
I was born on Thursday, which was the third day of the Zul-Hijjah month of 326. My birthplace is Khwarezm, located exactly 1 hour east of Medinatu Salam, Baghdad, and 41.28 degrees north latitude.
The Khwarezm region, which the Turks call Chai Ardı, the Latin people Transoxiana, and Arabs Mawarun Nar, is located in the fertile land irrigated by the Amu Darya River, just south of Aral Lake, where the cities of Urgench and Hive are located in today's Uzbekistan. The lands of Mawarun Nar and Khwarezm were the 3,000 kilometers long Oxy-Jakartes rivers, sometimes disappeared under the piles of sand, sometimes emerged and watered and greened, have been inhabited by different Turkish tribes since ancient times.
Central Asia is one of the most important regions in world history. It is the general name of the area spanning 15 million square kilometers from China's Manchuria to the Caspian Sea, and it has been the home to many civilizations.
This wide area are surrounded by mountains that exceed 4,000 or 5,000 meters, such as the Tundra Mountains, Pamir and Hindukush. In the west, there are deserts such as Altai, Gobi, Taklamakan, Akum, Kızılkum, and Karakum. The Yenisei River, which originates from the Altai Mountains, extends in the north of the region, and in the southeast, the upper part of the Yellow River. and Ili, Chu, and Talas rivers, which originate from the Pamir Plateaus and the Tian Shan Mountain.
Some of the most important oasis city-states in world history were established along places such as the Gurk, Fergana, Kashgar, Hotanin, Yarkand, Turfa, and Hamini rivers. These cities contributed to human history and civilization. The most important scientists in the world were trained here. In other words, in addition to the richness of the Silk Road, we can say that the region has made a great contribution to culture and science. Even ancient Greek geographers such as Ptolemaios and Strabon tried to define Central Asia, although they did not go there.
These lands, located at the intersection of the roads connecting the north of Asia to the south and the east to the west, were the places where many religions, cultures, and civilizations have come together and developed since ancient times. The ideas produced by many thinkers and scientists who were raised there have reached the rest of the world and shaped and changed the history of humanity.
Turks were the main group inhabiting this very large area known as Central Asia, but they were not the only ones living there. In addition to the Turks, there were also the Persians and some others coming from India, especially the Buddhist clergy from that region. However, according to Iranian sources, Central Asia is synonymous with Turkish culture and Turkestan.
This deep-rooted geography that beats iron and tamed the horse for the first time and takes pioneering steps in many areas from ceramic production to the Silk Road trade, has been the hand that blends the East and West with both the trade routes and science bridges it has established.
Of course, this brings a great economic vitality to the region. Apart from this, it brings social richness and polyphony. Because trading was a culture bearer in many regions in the Middle Ages, many people from Bulgaria in north, India in south, and China in the east came to Khorasan to trade. Here, they mingled with other communities, transmitted their own culture and civilization there. And this vitality had important effect on the formation of Islamic culture and Islamic civilization.
The universal journey of Islam, which started at Mount Hira, went beyond the Arabian Peninsula and its surroundings and spread all over the world like wildfire. Not more than 100 years after the Prophet Muhammad's death, the sounds of Adhan reached the Great Wall of China through Iraq, Iran, and Central Asia in the east. In the west, it spread into Europe through Egypt, North Africa, and Spain. Departing from the deserts of Arabia, the Islamic armies, first heading to the north, laid siege to Damascus, which was the capital of the Syrian province of the Byzantine Empire in 634. After a long siege, the Islamic armies under the command of Khalid bin al-Walid and Abu Abudai defeated Byzantine armies under the commander of Emperor Hercules and conquered Damascus. The new conquerors did not interfere with the language, religion, and customs of the people who were living in the places they conquered. They did not make any radical changes in the daily life of people in those countries. Muslims and Christians used today's Umayyad Mosque of Damascus, which was transformed into a church when it was a 5,000-year-old pagan sanctuary, as a common place of worship for 70 years. Moving from here to the Palestinian territories, Muslims appeared in front of Jerusalem after 3 years. After a siege lasting 4 months, Patriarch Sophronis declared that he would hand over the keys of the city directly to the Caliph Omar al-Faruq. Caliph Omar came to Jerusalem upon this and visited the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and Duhur prayer time. Despite all the insistence of Patriarch Sophronius, he did not perform the Salat in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. He later stated that he did not want to give the Muslims the opportunity to turn this place of worship which was considered holy by Christians, into a mosque. He performed the salat at a place near the church, and then the Muslims modestly built the Mosque of Omar opposite the Church of the Resurrection of today. Not only that, Omar granted access to the Jews, who had been banned to enter the holy city for centuries. This unique understanding of tolerance, which derives from the essence of the Islamic faith, caused the new religion to spread rapidly among the local communities. On the other hand, in 636 AD, the Islamic armies under the command of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas defeated the Persian Sassanid armies in Qadisiyah, that located in 15-kilometer distance from Hira city in the present-day Iraq. Then the capital Median was conquered, and in 642 AD, they defeated the Persian armies in the Great Battle of Nihavend, bringing an end to the Sassanid Empire. Around 704 AD, the Islamic armies controlled by Qutayba ibn Muslim were first seen on Central Asian territories. Within the 10 years that followed, Muslims stretched to Kashgar, which was found on the border with China. In 751 AD, there was a great war with the Chinese army in Talas.
We can say that the Turks stood by the Muslims in this war between the Arabs and the Chinese, and that the Muslims ended this war with overwhelming superiority, changing the fate of Central Asia.
Orta Asya'nın kaderini değiştirdi diyebiliriz.
Turks who believed in animism and Tengrism in the past then became shamanists. After a while, after adopting Manikism, most of them became Buddhist, and some became Nesturi Christian. There were Turkish tribes that chose Jainism, Zoroastrianism, Mazdaism, and Taoism. The Caspian Turks also became Jewish.
First, the influence of Buddhism is seen very clearly. For example, Bukhara, which is known as Vihara in Buddhism, meaning monastery. Similar to this, Samarkand is also a Buddhist term. Buddhists brought their beliefs to the area. Later, Nestorists spread Nesturi Christianity from Asia Minor. After that, Manichaeism found a great spread, though this was not as influential. Finally, after 642 AD, the Turks came into contact with Islam. This was especially so after 672, after the Battle of Nahavand. It then spread towards the steppes.
Turkish tribes who entered Islam in the 8th century began to assume the leadership of Islam a century later.
Karahanlılar ve Gazneliler Türklerin İslamiyet'i kabul ettikten
Karakhanids and Ghaznavids are the first Muslim Turkish states that the Turks have established in Turkish provinces after accepting Islam. And the first ruler to accept Islam was Sultan Burak Khan, the ruler of the Karakhanids.
The Abbasids, especially the great statesman Harun al-Rashid and his son Emin and Mehmun, who inspired the Arabian Night, gave special importance to Iran, Khorasan and Mawarunna region, since they played a leading role in their coming to power. During these last two rulers, the Samani family, who served as the regional provincial governor, was given a semi-independent status, and eventually the Samanis founded one of the strongest dynasties in the region.
This is one of the oldest places of Muslim, Bukhara. We are in front of the tomb of Ismail Samani, the ruler of Samani. In this region where the Samani dynasty was ruled 1,000 years ago, the Samanis are one of the important families that emerged after the Abbasids gave independence to this region and contributed to the culture and civilization of the Islamic world.
The Samanis have made great efforts to provide the science environment that will prepare the golden age of Islamic civilization in the Mawara Nar region.
According to what we learned from the sources of this library, which is called Savanul Hikmeh, books were placed in cabinets and chests in a classified section. It is said that Ibn Sina worked in this library for a long time and wrote most of his works here, in the environment we are in.
The Ghaznavid state, founded by Alptekin, the governor of the eastern Khorasan of the Samanis, dominated Iran and Turan during the Mahmud of Ghazni period. It crossed the Ganges Valley and went down to Sindh and Hind subcontinent.
On the other hand, Ghaznavids, another great state of the time, also recognized Islam through the hands of Samanis. They even got out of Samanis and established a state in the south in Ghazna.
In the period of Sultan Mahmud, Ghaznavids became superior among other Islamic states. The width of their borders reached to India and provided the spread of Islam to that geography.
Iran, Khorasan and Mawara-un-Nahr, after the Islamic conquest which took place at the beginning of the 8th century, it turned into a cradle of civilization where the foundations of this newborn religion was kneaded and shaped.
Muslims began to reconstruct these cities in Mawara-un-Nahr and Khorasan after they were taken under the control of Islam, and the struggle period ended and stability was achieved here. They established madrasas and libraries in Mawara-un-Nahr cities, especially in Samarkand and Bukhara, in Merv, Bel and other cities.
Samarkand and Bukhara became a science center of Islamic geography in a short time.
The scientific development in Khorasan and Mawara-un-Nahr increased and progressed in the geography with the dominance of Islam. We can say that it lived in its golden age together with other Islamic cities.
Shortly after Islam entered the region, unique sources of philosophy, logic, medicine, astronomy, mathematics and algebra, and also the Quran, Hadith and Fiqh have been compiled and gathered in the Central Asian Turkish world. The first major dictionaries of the Arabic and Turkish languages were written in this ancient land. In short, as the foundations of universal civilizations were laid in Mesopotamia, that is, in the Tigris-Euphrates basin, the foundations of Islamic civilization in the Central Asian steppe were laid on the other side of the river, namely the Mawara-un-Nahr. The land between Oxus Jakatius is pioneering and very fertile, just as the land between Tigris and the Euphrates is a history-making geography. Al-Khwarizmi, who gave his name to the science of logarithm, established the science of algebra here. Abdulhamid bin Turk solved his math equations here. Fergani, known by the Latin people as Alpharganos, tried to map the sky in these lands. Jahbir bin Hayam released the irresistible magic of alchemy science here. Legendary scholar and thinker of the medical Eastern and Western world, great physician, famous philosopher Ibn Sina grew up in this basin.
Civilization historians say that every civilization has a basic feature and characteristic feature. For example, the main feature of Greek civilization is the importance it attaches to philosophy and art. The main feature of the Roman civilization is the importance it gives to law, architecture and construction. When it comes to Islamic civilization, the characteristic feature of this civilization and the main element that gives it the main features are science and thought.
The fact that the Islamic civilization was so fertile and that these lands gave birth to precious mines undoubtedly resulted from the fact that the understanding of Islam did not delay any accumulation of civilization and benefited from all previous experiences. Because the Muslims bought all the intellectual jewels in these lands, they developed a rich perspective from this valuable accumulation and created a new understanding of science, culture, and art. This is the beginning of this important process when the conquerors from the Arabian Peninsula went to the Central Asian steppes to recognize the 5,000 years of civilization accumulation here.
Since childhood, I had a strong research passion and a passion for learning all kinds of information. I spent my childhood in Khwarezm, which is my hometown and the neighborhood of the Khwarezmians. There, I led a life full of curiosity, dedicated to discovery, which pushed me to delve into the secrets of life.
A turbaned, white-bearded old man, holding a ragged child by the hand, arrives at the mansion of Mansur bin Ali. Mansur bin Ali Iraq is busy poring over a manuscript featuring astronomical drawings. The lackey in the house lets in the man and the boy.
Assalamu alaikum.
Va alaykum assalom. Xush kelibsiz ustoz. Marhamat. O'tiring.
As soon as the greeting is over, the old man sits. He sits yonder. 17-year-old Biruni waits timidly, standing.
Afsar, sizga Muhammad haqida ko'p gapirgandim. Mana o'zlari. Madrasamizning eng iqtidorli talabalaridan. Juda ko'p fanlarni o'rgangan. Arab, fors tillarini juda ham yaxshi biladi. Endi aqliy ilm masalasida ilgari yurmog'i lozim. Uning bu yo'ldagi iqtidorini bilgan holda
Mansur bin Ali Iraq is impressed by what he has just been told.
Ilm kitobingizdan bahramand bo'lsangiz, iltimos.
And he tells Biruni to get closer. He holds out a paper with drawings on it.
Mana shuni o'qib, tushunganlaringni bizga aytib ber.
Bu yerda Batamius astronomiyasi haqida yozilgan. Men bu ilmlarni hali o'rganmaganman.
Mansur bin Ali is pleased to see a talented, keen and well-mannered boy before him.
Bu ilmlarni men senga o'rgataman.
Abu Nasr Mansur, whose house is the meeting place of thinkers, scholars and artists in the region, is himself a member of Khwarazm Shah dynasty and a scholar of math and astrology. He agrees to take this intelligent boy under his wing and make sure he gets the education he deserves. In this part, we moved along the steppes of Middle Asia where beliefs get interwoven with each other and knowledge is fed by many different sources. And we saw how the religion of Islam, based on the unity of God, coalesced with art and philosophy to turn into a global civilization. In the following part, we will learn about the life of a genius scholar, a peerless figure of scientific development, who set the tone for the civilization of his time, especially when the rest of the world was enshrouded with the darkness of the Middle Ages. And we will try to answer the question, how did Biruni become who he was?